Assalamu alaikum, everyone. For the last few days, I was fretting about that I had a lot to talk about and only 7 minutes to do that. And now I'm told that I don't even have 7 minutes. But that's okay. A huge thank you to Senator Sherry Rahman. She said probably all that I have to say, except for some hardcore data facts which I will present very quickly to you. The chart that you see on the screen is the trend in per capita income of Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India. And as you see, a few things. Pakistan per capita income has been growing at the rate of 3.6% per year. So its our standard of living is still increasing despite a very rapid growth in population. But if you look at the trend, in 1990, Pakistan per capita income was 56% higher than that of India and almost double that of Bangladesh. You fast forward it to 2024, Bangladesh is 53% higher GDP per capita than Pakistan, and India is higher by 71%. So if you find these trends very surprising, let me add to that surprise that in 1990, China had a per capita income which is half of that of Pakistan, and in 2024 it had 4 times the per capita income of Pakistan. As you can see, the gap is increasing and increasing at about 3% per year. So if you want to call that relative imbalances have been increasing very rapidly. And that gap, 3% gap, is 70% because of higher GDP growth in Bangladesh and India, and 30% because of their lower population growth. So if we attribute this gap to population, that 30% means nothing because that's just a arithmetical calculation and nothing else, because that's a direct effect of population growth. There's ample research available which suggests that population growth also impacts our numerator, the GDP growth. And there are multiple pathways from which the population growth impacts GDP growth. Next slide, please. I would just pass on these because Senator Rahman has talked quite in detail about the per capita availability of water and per capita availability of agricultural land, which we all know is declining very sharply. The agriculture census for 2024 just came out, and it suggests that 25% of the farms in Pakistan are now below 1 acre, and 78% farms are below 5 acres. And there are much wiser people than I sitting in the hall today who can tell you the economic implication of this fragmentation. But I'll pass on this and move to the next slide, which is just taking a change in tack. It is the fiscal resources available per capita. I would not dwell too much on the revenue side. I'll talk more about the expenditure side. Because this expenditure is basically telling you the amount, both the quality and the quantity of public infrastructure and public services that are provided per capita. 1993, we were all about the same level. Bangladesh was a bit lower. Pakistan, India was at the same level. 2023, India is about 3 times, spending 3 times, public expenditure being 3 times that of Pakistan per capita. So even if we don't see too much of difference in public infrastructure quality and quantity in India and Pakistan today, watch out, next 5 years they are going to leapfrog us like anything. Next slide, please. Now coming to the other pathway from which the population impacts GDP. The first entry point for the population to impact GDP is the saving rate. We all know when the population increases, even at the household level, if you have more mouths to feed, the first impact is going to be on saving and even on investment at the household level, whether that be investment in their future wealth or investment in human capital. Per capita expenditure at the household level on education, health, even on food declines when there is one more person to feed. So our saving rate in 1976 was about 15%, and we are at 13% now. While India and Bangladesh are into mid-30s already. So with 13% of saving rate, we aren't going anywhere. Reason is because saving finance investment, saving finance even your fiscal deficit. So if you have that load, that was the reason why our fiscal deficit is such a huge problem for us. India has been running much higher fiscal deficit than us for the last 7-8 years. But that's not a problem for us because their saving is so much higher. They can finance private investment and fiscal deficit without creating any distortions in the economy, but we cannot. Can we go back a slide because I want to talk a bit about investment. It's just a mirror image of the saving rate. Our investment rate at 14%, we were at 17% in 1976 and on a 14% now. So our investment rate has declined, while that of Bangladesh and India are already into 30s, early 30s, 30% of GDP. So with 14% of GDP as investment, how fast can we grow? So that indirect impact of population, I'm not suggesting here that population has everything to do with this falling saving rate and almost stagnant investment rate. But if I suggest that it has nothing to do with it, that would be a lie. So population does impact saving, may not be as much as it is. There are other factors involved, similarly investment, but it does play a role. Next slide, please. This is an important issue because we economists have been brought up in the neoclassical economics that population is a resource in a way because higher population means higher labor force. Labor force is a factor of production, so our factor of production resource, the pool of factor of production improves as the population increases. Our first chart, it is the population to employment ratio. If you want to call it, it is the mouth to feed divided by the earning hands, if you like. We are much, much higher population to employment rate than in Bangladesh and India. Almost only 1/3 of the population support the entire population. So as far as being a resource, we have to think again because with this kind of a ratio, obviously it doesn't look like a resource, it looks more like a drain. The reason for this is, on my chart B, is the population under 15 years of age, which is not in the labor force. We have 37% of population under 15 years of age. And India and Bangladesh are in late 20s. And the second element is our female participation rate. While India's female participation rate declined in the early 2000s, the income effect, but ours has never been in the ballpark. We have been always lower female participation rate than our South Asian neighbors. So these are the two reasons why our economic dependency rate, as I call it, is much higher than that of India and Bangladesh. So population from these three slides does not appear to be a resource. Even if it's a resource, it's not a net resource, it's more of a net drain. Next slide. The other issue is that because of a low investment, which is indirectly related to our population growth, our capital labor ratio is much, much lower than that of India and about the same, at present at least, that of Bangladesh. Why is that important? Because that is a factor which provides productivity to your labor. More capital, more productive the labor is going to be. So And then you have the human capital issue here. If you look at my chart B, our labor force, only 29% has basic education, while that of India and Bangladesh, they are in mid-40s. So we don't have human capital element, we don't have physical capital element. So the productivity is clearly, you can see in chart C, has been more or less stagnant, while that in Bangladesh and India has been rising quite sharply. So we don't have, we keep on talking about labor being a productive resource, but the data doesn't show that. Next slide. So I don't think I need to talk about what the key takeaways are. As per the UN projections, Pakistan dependency ratio would become equal to that of India and Bangladesh, because sooner or later they would have this aging of population problem. But that is going to happen only after 2058. We have still 33 years to go. And if somebody believes that after 2058, let's sit back and let the natural course of population dynamics take its direction, and we will eventually catch up with India and Bangladesh in economic well-being, it's not going to happen, because my last slide of productivity. Because by that time, India and Bangladesh would have accumulated so much capital, so much higher capital than Pakistan, that they would keep on increasing the gap for a few more decades before we start to catch up with them. So if we are looking at a century maybe, then perhaps we would catch up if we do all the things right now and let the population take its course, or we act on both the economy side and the population side and try to close the gap sooner than that. I stop here. Thank you very much.